most fulfilling part of the job is when you send the kids back to their parents. There's an addition to that, I swear. When you send the kids back to their parents and they are bursting with excitement about something that they picked up that day. So, you know, there might be a kid who has issues with speech, and so we're working on sounds throughout the day. And when their mom comes to pick them up, they look at me and say, bye-bye. And it's like, oh my gosh, their parent saw it, I saw it. There was an acknowledgement that there was, you know, milestones being made and that there was progress being made. And it is just so amazing to go home at the end of the day and have that memory, to be able to be a part of that moment. My first day on the job, I had my first client, and I actually still work with him now. And he's an older kid, so he was 19 at the time. And I really imagined that the job was going to be different. You know, my first day, I thought I was going to have a little kid that I was going to chase around, but I had this, you know, big old 19-year-old who wanted to play Uno with me and play Yahtzee, and was just very interested in a lot of things, had a lot of questions, kept a lot of facts on him, and it kind of blew my mind a little bit because it was not what I expected at all walking into it, but it was a very pleasant surprise at the same time. You know? I would have to say the amount of presence that it takes to be at work. I think a lot of people view their job as kind of just something that they have to dedicate hours of their life to, but they don't really dedicate themselves to. And so they come in here kind of with this mentality of this is a job, and they do it like any other job. But you don't have the ability to really do well at this job if you are not completely and totally absorbed in what you're doing when you're in session and you are not there mentally. And so I find that a lot of people don't like the amount of hours in session that they have to spend, you know, like really dedicated to what they're doing. And so a lot of times it causes people to kind of just drift away from it because it's not something they're passionate about. So I think having a passion is something that you really need in order to be here, because if you don't, I mean, you can fake it for a while, but at some point it's not going to work for you. You're not going to want to be here. I would also say that there are harder days more often than there are easier ones. You know, you have kids that come in here and can be affected by a number of things. The day that they've had, their parents, maybe some kids at school, their bus ride, literally anything. And it could set them off. They could not feel great. And then for the rest of the session that you're having, you're kind of dealing with the fallback of them having a bad day. Obviously poop. Poop is awful. Poop is terrible. And I think that pushing them is hard sometimes too. Especially when you spend more time with these kids, you know, you get very close to them and you know intimately things about them. And so when you know why they might be having a bad day, or you kind of have an idea of what could be contributing, and you still have to push that programming, and it's part of your job to still kind of make sure they're learning something and they just do not want to, it is hard. You feel like a bad guy for a little bit, but it's kind of one of those tough love situations where, you know, when you have a love for this community and you have a love for these kids, you're gonna push them in that direction, even if they are having a little bit of a bad day.